Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call this meeting to order for February 7th, 2019 for committee as a whole, business affairs and administrative. Roll call, please.
Mr. Green. Here. Mrs. Heinz. Here. Mr. Derman.
Here.
Mr. Loop. Here. Mr. Harrell. Here. Mr. Nation. Mrs. Richardson. Present. Mr. Winkler. Present. Mrs. Drucker. Here. Mr. Bittencourt. Here. Mrs. Lamey. Here. Mr. Hersey. Here. Mr. Breaux. Here. Mr. Kuzan. Here. Mrs. Page.
Thank you very much. We're going to dispense with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. It has a recognition of visitors, but it's really just a recognition. I am proud to announce that Matt Green is my co-chair for the committee as a whole for business affairs, and he has graciously accepted. So thank you, Matt. You got any comments? He's a great student of speed. So
thank you, Mr. Derman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Winkler.
I'd like to acknowledge a former employee of the system, Wade Singletary, back there in the back. He's the last row.
Hey, Wade, how are you? You almost sitting in the same spot you were for years up here. All right. Mr. Kuzan, yes, sir.
I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Jack Loop, who has accepted to be my co-chair on the Education Committee, and I'm very sorry that I didn't recognize you at the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzan. Okay, do we have any people requesting time on our agenda tonight? Good. So moving forward, we're going to go to approval of minutes for the committee as a whole held on December 6th, 2018. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Luke.
Second.
Second by Ms. Drucker. Any comments or questions from board members? Any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, please all vote.
Yeas, 2 abstentions.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move now to special presentations, which is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, Government Finance Officers Association of Louisiana. I believe Mr. Huval and Mr. Mickey Simon.
Good afternoon. Seems like I know how to clear out a room, right?
You do have an effect like that on people.
Yeah, that's accounting for you, I guess. I'm here tonight to present 2 awards. These awards demonstrate that the school board is committed to fiscal transparency as you share your financial information above and beyond what is generally accepted accounting principles requirement. It also demonstrates a high level of sophistication and expertise in financial reporting. For both of these awards, the reports are submitted to the respective organizations and are scrutinized against a rigorous checklist by selected report reviewers, which comprise of individuals with expertise in public sector finance reporting. What's really impressive is that the St. Tammany Parish School Board has won these 2 awards for 30 consecutive years. Yes. That's quite a feat. That's quite a feat. The first award is from the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA. This association is known as the premier governmental accounting organization, so their standards are very high, and your school district is consistently meeting these high standards, which is a tribute to your team. At this time, I'd like to ask Gary Silva to come forward on behalf of the St. Tammany Parish School Board to accept the GFOA Certificate of Excellence. Congratulations. Now, the second award is from the Association of School Business Officials, or ASBO. This award focuses on much the same criteria, but it's specific to school districts. So the review is a little more specialized. Notably, only 23 Louisiana school districts received this award for the fiscal year 2017. In fact, St. Tammany Parish School Board is one of only 10 Louisiana school districts to earn this award 25 or more years. So that's a great accomplishment. For these reasons, it is my honor to congratulate the board, the administration, and especially the Business Affairs Department on this achievement. Gary, would you once again come forward on behalf of the school board and accept the ASBO Certificate of Excellence? Great job. So, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Mr. Huball, we want to thank y'all for coming tonight and sitting through some long meetings to get to this point, but we certainly do appreciate the report and the accolades that y'all are giving to our accounting department and our school district. And we certainly appreciate y'all's efforts in helping identify these great feats for us. So we thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Fultz.
Yes, Mr. Durham, if I could, I want to say a special thank you to Terry and her team, and I'm going to ask her to introduce her team members that are here so that they can be recognized as well. These two gentlemen mentioned a team effort, and I can tell you it is a total team effort of everyone in the business affairs as well as the others that work with her is that as well. So Terry, introduce the others, and let's thank all of them for the work, and thank you for your leadership in the department.
Thank you, Mr. Foles. We have Janet Stevens here, our Director of Purchasing. We have Shannon Jenkins, Director of Payroll Services. Ron Randolph, also Director of Payroll Services. Gary Silva, Chief Accountant. He's the preparer of the financial statement.
Congratulations. Thank you all. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Again, a job well done by everyone. Thank you. Going on to the next item is discussion of the social media policy. Mr. Hersey.
Thank you, Mr. Durham. I just want to make everybody aware that I'm going to be coming very shortly with a repeal item on some of these issues. And if anybody else would like time to voice their opinion, what explicitly they'd like to remove from this, if not entirely, because some of it I do not disagree with. But there's several locations I do have a problem with this media policy. So at this time, if anybody else would like to speak, I'd like to give them a little time. And if not, I'm through.
Okay, does any other board member want to make a comment at this point? Ms. Richardson.
Mr. Hersey, I just wanted to tell you I do stand behind you regarding I do believe that there's some quality statements inside the policy. And as we've already said tonight, the board should be held to the highest standard. And but I do feel that we need to revisit this policy for several reasons.
May I respond,
Sure.
Mr. Durham? Real quick, and then I'm finished. I guess what I'm looking for is, do we want to take the whole thing down, or we just want to rebuild, restructure a little bit on this deal? And I'm trying to get a grasp, because I know which way I'd like to go, but I want to make sure I'd have enough support going that way. That's what I'm looking for here.
May I
in an
address
open
that?
meeting. Yes, ma'am. Well, go ahead.
Okay. We got other people going to speak, but I'm going to let you respond because you still have the floor on this one.
I do. I just feel that one of the comments that our lawyer has pointed is that the policy has no teeth. If there's no teeth to the policy, then we have to ask the question, what's the perception? What's the purpose here? So that is why I want to take some time. I'm not suggesting that we trash it. I'm not comfortable saying that. What I am saying is that we've got to step back and say, what is this policy saying to the community, the perception? And secondly, if there's no teeth, then what's the point?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Richardson.
Thank you.
Ms. Drucker.
I concur. No, I really do think that why have a policy if it doesn't have any substance to it? So I agree with Mr. Hersey that we do need to revisit it. I did not vote for it the first time, and I think that we do as a board should revisit it to maybe revise it. So I agree.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Laney?
Before I was elected, I shared at the meeting when it was discussed, that I didn't agree. I thought that many of the things that were in here were, I just disagreed with. But with that being said, I do think that there needs to be some training and just on social media in general, apparently. And just with some of the things that have happened, it's probably a good idea for us to have guidelines just to hold people accountable, even if we don't have, you're not fired, obviously, we can't just kick you off the board, but we can still say we have this policy and we expect you to adhere to it. And so I definitely think we need to revisit it if we're going to keep it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hines?
I'd just like to say that I do believe that we need some sort of policy, and I actually believe that while I don't use social media a lot, I did look at social media this week, and I feel like some of the comments that people made as board members reflected their thought by using this policy, and I thought it was very helpful. So I certainly do not think that we should repeal the entire policy. If people would like to look at it again, you know, a policy can always be changed. But I think it's a helpful to have, and I would support some looking at it, but certainly not repealing it.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. You finished? Mr. Hersey?
And in clarification, I misspoke when I used the word trash. I meant get rid of it, first of all. And second, when it comes to speech, I'm a firm believer that speech is not only there to protect the speech that we like, it's there to protect the speech we don't want to hear. And I'm a firm believer of that. Whether I agree with it or not, you have the freedom of doing stuff. Not in an open meeting, there's decorum set in the Supreme Court, et cetera. But on your private lines, you have a right to speak, no matter how stupid I may think it is, no matter how hateful I might think it is. I'm a very strong advocate of free speech, irregardless if I agree with it or not. Thank you. That's where I'm going with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hines.
Just one more thought. I think it would be wise for board members to take the time to do research, but also I think at the state and national convention we may hear lots of discussion about social media and social media guidelines, and I think that it would be important to have those that little bit of training first before would be changed.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. I think that's a very good point to be made, especially for a lot of our new board members that are coming on. And I don't think that this particular policy was done to inhibit anyone from doing things. It was just simply to try to set guidelines and parameters that are helpful to our board members when dealing in social media. So I think it was well intended. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. And I'm not one to question it because I'm not in social media, so it's okay. But like I said at the meeting that night, it doesn't impact me because I'm not on it. But with that being said, it does impact a lot of people, and I do understand that. But I think Ms. Hines makes a very valid point that when we go to these conventions in the next couple of months, it's going to allow you to see what other districts are doing, other states are doing, and have a better ability to understand what may be appropriate or inappropriate and be part of our policy. And we all look forward to whatever that may be. With that being said, Ms. Lammy, I'm sorry to sit here and preach, but
I do appreciate that suggestion, Ms. Hines, and I have looked up many school board policies. Some have them, some do not, and most of them are guidelines. And I also looked at the classes that are going to be offered. And again, those are more like trainings and suggestions. I just want to touch on what Shelta said about perception. Because a majority of the board was not active in social media prior to the new members coming in, and many of the new members are and were, and this was passed at the very last meeting, it looked as though before they went out, we were trying to pass this policy to get all these people who are coming in that are on social media, make sure they know what they can and can't say. So I think that came across to the public, with the wrong intention is my point. So I think that with that being said, going to the classes and kind of getting together as a new board to make some decisions would probably just be beneficial.
all right. And to make another point before Mr. Betancourt speaks, in the process that we were going through was a very long and drawn-out process, and some of the board members that were very active in that commitment wanted to bring it to a
I
head
do understand that.
because they were getting off the board.
Yeah.
So in defense of that,
Yeah.
Mr. Betancourt.
Thank you, Mr. Dermott. Is email social media?
Could
Well,
be
then,
considered so.
4 and 5 on this list here kind of limit, as an elected school board member, a lot of time, there was a thing not too long ago where I responded to maybe over 100. There was some big hot button issue, and I can't remember what the hell it was, but you got to use, when you're conversing with constituents or other, concerned people in the parish and stuff, you're emailing back and forth, and you're not giving away confidential information. I'm talking about the last sentence in number 4. You should not share content already released to the unless it's already been released to the public. Well, if you're talking about something with a parent or whatever, it may not have been something that's already released, but you're having an honest discussion, getting input and responding. And as an elected official, I think we have to have the freedom to do that, but you've got to use common sense and not give away confidential information, and you don't automatically get on there and maybe say, oh yeah, well, I'm going to vote this way about something that's coming up. But I think we need the freedom to be able to interact with concerned parents or citizens.
Well, I think all of those things will be addressed once we have a little bit more time to deliberate as individual board members and gather a little bit more information. And I'm sure there'll be some type of work committee put together that people that are very interested in this from both sides can deliberate and maybe tweak the policy and bring it back to the board for revision. So without anything else being said or any other action, is that, Mr. Hersey, you didn't put forth a motion of any type?
I am not at this time. I want to give some time to think. I like to smell it, hear it, feel it a little bit before I do it.
I like to look at it too. You know I'm a visual learner.
You and I both, and I do not use social.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to take no action on that for tonight and then bring it back at a later time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the administrative side of things, Mr. Jabbia, monthly maintenance and custodial report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Derman. Mr. Williams' staff is here if you have any questions.
Any questions regarding our maintenance and custodial report from any board member? Seeing none, we're going to go to our risk management report, sir.
Kurt Gaspard is here if you have any questions, and then once we finish with that, Kurt has a trend report to present to the board.
Okay. Mr. Gaspard, is this the Neil Hennigan report?
This is the Neil Hennigan report.
Be sure we send it to him.
Yeah. Good evening.
So y'all thought admin couldn't do a PowerPoint.
Well, I haven't done it yet, Mr. Chairman.
It's not up yet.
He's sweating over there.
Yeah, I am. Good evening. Tonight, I'm here to present Trend Data Report for 2018. As I begin this, I want y'all to understand this is a summary of the information that you're provided monthly. Every month, I provide a risk management report. It separates the various types of incidents and accidents that occur within the system. The first part of this is going to be the workers' compensation data. As you can see, this is for the past 12 years, going back to 2007. In workers' comp, you have basically 3 types of losses that occur. A report only, which that type of incident means something happened. The employee reports it to their supervisor. department head, et cetera. It's taken down. That information is sent to my office, but it doesn't mean that the person needed any medical treatment necessarily or had anything a result of the accident. There are medical-only accidents under workers' comp. Those mean just what they say. The person had medical treatment only as a result of the injury. And then you have lost time, which is when somebody misses at least one day of work. If you look at the very bottom, I'm showing an average over all of the years for each one of these categories. We've averaged 110 lost time accidents per year, 123 medical-only accidents per year, 337 report-onlys, for a total of an average of about 570 work accidents per year. I also show the average lost days per lost time accident. So if somebody misses a day of work and it's a lost time accident, that is compiled and shown in that column. Yeah, yes, sir.
Can I stop you just for a real quick question? What is the number of employees that we're dealing with in this time frame? Is it pretty much,
Well, our
the same?
employee
or
numbers
is it
have changed
fluctuating?
quite a bit since 2007, if that's what you're asking, Mr. Derman. It changes annually.
Right, so what I'm saying is if we're actually going down in claims and going up in employees, then we're actually trending downward as opposed to if we're flatlining, I guess is what I'm asking.
That's a correct assumption. We're trending downward. We add new employees every year. I'm going to break it down a little bit further as we go throughout this, further into the
Okay,
presentation.
I was just trying to get my head around that part, so.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
This is a graphical
We'll just wait to the
present.
end for questions. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. This is a graphical presentation showing total work accidents by year. And we had a little spike in 2017. It has come back down more within the norm and the average. This is a look at the average lost work days as a summary of everything. And remember, too, this is all types of jobs within St. Tammany Parish school system. So it's not just one department. This is everything that we have reported annually. Between 2017 and 2018, there's a slight variance. We're going down to 33.35 average lost days per lost time claim. This is showing by year the totals graphically by category. The blue graph represents the lost time accidents. And I'm happy to report there was a pretty significant difference between 2017 and 2018 in the overall lost time accidents that we had. It went from 114 to 89. This is where I'm breaking it down, showing you by job classification the types of accidents that occurred last year. I do track this information on a calendar year basis, so it's from January to December. Each category is represented here between all of our major job departments. This is a picture of the regular ed teachers over the past 3 years, where the total numbers of lost time, medical only, and report only claims totaled. As you can see, between 2017 and 2018, a pretty significant reduction from 31 lost time accidents to 19. The medical onlys run about the same, 41 and 42. And there was a drop also in report onlys from 79 to 65. This is a similar comparison, but with our special ed teachers only. Between 2017 and 2018, there was a reduction of 13 lost time claims to 9, and a pretty significant drop on the report-only claims from 91 to 52. This graph shows the ratio of special ed teachers to regular ed teachers in St. Tammany. So our population is about 15% special ed and 85% regular ed. Looking at the lost time claims, though, we have a 32% of the lost time claims with teachers occurring with special ed teachers. To summarize that, we had 81 work accidents with special education teachers in 2018. There were 126 work accidents for regular education teachers in 2018. 19 lost time accidents occurred with regular education teachers, and 9 occurred with special ed. So that higher ratio, I believe, is due in part to the physical nature of that job within special ed. Those teachers are having a lot more physical contact, interaction, etc., with their students, and that, I believe, is why we have a little bit higher ratio on the lost time accidents in that department. I'm now going to put together and show you some stats about our paraeducators. Looking at the past 3 years at paraeducators and where their accidents have happened, there was a slight decrease between 2017 and 18. In all the categories except the report onlys, we went up from, I'm sorry, no, we actually did go down by 3 from 2017 to 2018. This graph shows the types of accidents with paras that are reported. In 2018, there were 27 claims that involved grabbing by a student. There were 76 that involved being struck or kicked. There were 22 that involved being bitten. And then there were 83 that did not involve that type of action or activity with a student. So in 2018, there were 30 lost time claims involving paraeducators. That's down from 41 in 2017. 60% of the total accidents involving paraeducators for 2018 were a result of student contact. Personal protective equipment and continued training remains a focus of the Special Education Department to help reduce and minimize work accidents with paraeducators. And I know that Ms. Bauer continues that trend and is working very diligently to try and help give the tools that the paras need out there to help protect themselves and to prevent them from being injured while they're at work.
Kurt, before you move into the bus accident data, just so for the board members that you're aware, we have paraeducators with the largest percent of our paraeducators that work in special ed classrooms. We have very few that work in the library, some Title I paras, some library aides, but the majority of our paraeducators work in special ed classrooms. And you can see the data here and what we deal with on a daily basis with those particular employees.
Mr. Jabby, if we may, let's break this down into these sections. Being as we're dealing with workers' comp claims, let's see if any board members have any claims in regards to that
Claims or
section.
questions?
Or questions. We got claims. I feel one coming on now.
We got enough claims.
So, any questions from board members regarding the presentation so far? Okay. Mr. Bro?
Oh, I just wanted to know the number of paraeducators.
That we have.
Right, because they're significantly high accident.
Oh, and I left out one, bus attendants. We also have bus attendants too. I think we're in the neighborhood of about 600 or 700. Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere in that area.
All right, thank you.
And a lot of these are required that we have to put in with these special ed classrooms and also on the bus.
Kurt, the one about paraeducator, workman's comp claims where you showed about grabbed, struck or kicked, bitten, but then I don't know, what is non-astute, what does that mean?
That could be an accident where they may have just tripped and fallen in the hallway,
Okay,
or they
something not
lifted
involved
something
with one
perhaps,
of
but
the
it didn't
special
involve
ed
students.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and just for general board members' knowledge, Kurt, could you explain how our workers' comp system is set up to where we have, we're self-insured with a SIR? We're not really self-insured, but seems like it sometimes. But, and then we have a TPA that now we're aggressively going out, and Mr. Jabby, you may want to expand upon that as to try to get a better control, so.
Let Kurt go first, then I'll chime in.
Okay, thank you.
The school system is self-insured for workers' compensation as well as all of our other lines of coverage, Ms. Derman. The workers' comp is a large retention program. We have presently $1 million retention per occurrence. That means we have an excess insurance company, and if we were to have a claim that goes above that amount, they would reimburse us for anything paid out above that amount. This report does not go into those kind of details, but we have a third-party administration company that has been contracted with the board since 2014. My office works with them daily, reporting claims, monitoring claims, coordinating our efforts, sharing information as well. They are the ones that report to the excess carriers with regard to any losses that might meet the reporting criteria. Anything else?
We also, we meet monthly with myself, Kurt, and Lori Niehaus, who's our Director of Personnel for the non-cert. So we meet monthly and go over every workers' comp claim that we have and everyone that's on our radar. David Pittman is very involved in this. When we get to a situation to where we can't move one way or the other, we try to get a settlement to get out if it's something that's going to cost us long-term. So we've been real aggressive since we've gotten this new TPA, and our numbers are going down all the time, and it's been a big help. So we work together to try to get it done.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to let the other board members kind of get an understanding of what we're doing. So when you say we have a SIR of $1 million, and if you look at the number of claims, the majority of those claims will not exceed that $1 million. So that is a school board dollar that we're going to have to mitigate. So we're either doing it through medical services or through our TPA and doing all that until it reaches that $1 million. So basically, it's in-house that we're working it, and that's what these gentlemen's jobs are, is to try to minimize that type of exposure. But it's a major, major, major undertaking, and it's constantly moving. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage for what they're actually doing, and it's very difficult and it's very time-consuming. So just wanted to kind of bring everybody up to speed on it. Sorry. Yes, including committee chairs, right? All right, Kurt, thank you. Go on.
Thank you. Is that all the questions on the comp? Okay. Now I'm going to show you the bus accident information, again, over the past 12 years. Total accidents, which ones involve substitute drivers, those that involved injuries. I'm also showing you the total miles traveled each year by all, and this is all buses combined. And then there's an average, how many miles we travel per incident. In 2018, we had 51 total accidents. 9 involved substitute drivers. 4 had resulted in injury. And that does not mean it was the bus driver that was injured. It could have been another party that the bus was involved with. Maybe we struck another vehicle perhaps, or if anyone reported an injury at that scene, then that's what's showing up here. But again, we are trending in the right direction, I believe. If you look at our severity data, which again, this is in the monthly report, those accidents that involve no damage, minimal damage, moderate damage, or severe, that's a dollar scale, and it has to do with just physical property damage to either vehicle that was involved. If there were multiple cars, then, you know, it's going to reflect that in here. 0 is no damage. Anything over $1 to $2,000 is going to be minimal. Anything above 2,000 to over 5 is what I classify as moderate, and then anything over $5,000 is going to be severe. The ones that you're seeing in that column of severe, I went back and double checked over the past 4 years. That was always another vehicle. It wasn't our bus that was severely damaged. It was some other vehicle. Looking at the comparison by those same categories, you can see graphically that we had a little bit of a spike in 2015. 2016, 17, and 18 are definitely running more within the average. Those total accidents per year compared to those that had an injury, as you can see, those are trending in the right direction as well. We had slight uptick in the total accidents from 2017 to 2018. Those with injury, though, are still remaining pretty constant. There were 12 more in 2018 than 17, and the total bus accidents are down significantly since 2015. All the accident categories ran slightly below the average in 2018, and I believe that's because our transportation department continues to improve through proactive training, enforcement, and supervision by Mr. Alfonso and his staff.
Thank you, Kurt. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Kuzan?
Yes, I just would like to thank Mr. Alfonso and congratulate him and his staff on the type of job that they're doing. We have to keep in mind that we always increasing the number of buses that we have and the number of drivers that we have. So we always have to keep that in mind. So I just want to make sure that we understand that we're, and I want to let you know that I understand the great job that you're doing with the training and all other aspects of transportation safety. Thank you.
We do have a safety manager that works not just solely with transportation, but the large percentage of the time with transportation. And he's done a real good job with the training that we're doing and preparing drivers and then going over safety rules and regulations. It's been a big help to us.
Thank you. Mr. Bro?
Yes, I noticed from the figures that almost 20% of the incidents on the bus drivers were with the substitute bus drivers. Is there any plan to maybe, well, first of all, what percentage of the bus drivers are substitute at any one time? Probably less than 20%, I would think.
I would have a hard time answering that one, Mr. Bro. I'd defer to Mr. Alfonso if he could. There days.
A lot less than 20%. And
180 bus drivers.
yeah, so what I'm suggesting is that maybe we need more stringent training and maybe better requirements on the substitute bus drivers so that we can try to minimize the accidents, since they seem to be overwhelmingly more percentage-wise due to the substitutes.
If I may interject, I do not know that this actually shows who's at fault in these
No,
accidents.
sir, these do not.
So, I mean, they may indicate that we had an accident, but it may not have been our bus driver's fault. So it's pulling that up as a accident, but not necessarily an at-fault accident.
And I think
So-
maybe that's one of the things that we maybe can present to you the next report.
That's fine.
That would
And
show.
I was
would
just
show that.
saying, even if the fault was equally distributed between the drivers, then we'd still have a much higher percentage, I think, of the substitute drivers with that.
You're correct.
we agree, and we are trying to focus a lot more on our substitute drivers and doing more training with them.
I think one of the other things that we have too, when we look at the trending over the years, our traffic situation has been horrible in this parish. And the infrastructure is, you know, not catching up to the number of cars that are out there. So, I mean, just because they're big yellow cheese wagons don't always mean that they're giving them the right of way or giving them the benefit of the doubt, even though their child may be on it. So, I mean, it's a challenge. Any other questions from board members regarding the bus criteria? All right, we're going to go to the general liability.
This is the incident that, these are incidents that occur on our campuses. 99% of these are students that have had some kind of a incident at the school where they may have fallen, participating in classroom activity, PE, playground, recess, etc. You know, the numbers have fallen since 2016. And this is something, you know, I can say that I've talked with all the principals. They know that if there's something serious, they're going to fax something like that to my office that if it involves some kind of injury with the student. But these are the totals by year of what's being reported. Years ago, I tried to standardize this number by showing how many occur per 100 students that we have enrolled. So annually, I have to adjust the enrollment numbers to go along with this data. But again, it's coming down in the right direction. I think, you know, the schools take a lot of pride in enforcing playground rules and trying to prevent students from having these kind of things that occur. And overall, that's not an area of concern. Graphically, you can see we're running right around 1,000 per year. So as large as we are, that may seem like a big number, but a lot of it's really minor things. So everything gets reported to my office. It's reviewed. If there's any action necessary, then we'll make contact. I will add, I reached out to several other school boards to see if their insurance/risk management department would share any of their data in these regards for us to have something to compare to. Unfortunately, none have responded at this point.
Well, Kurt, thank you very much. Yeah. Any questions from board members? Okay, Ms. Drucker.
Kurt, I just want to ask, on these, on the incidents, do you keep track of like the age groups or grade levels as far as the student incidents?
Yes, ma'am. Each
so-
one is identified by their grade.
And where do you find most of, you know, is there a concentration at a certain grade level or like elementary, middle school, or high school?
More in elementary and junior high,
Junior
actually.
high. Interesting. The monkey bars. Well, I mean, you know, eliminating monkey, if it is, eliminating monkey bars, but, you know, I'm just thinking out loud, you know, if there's a certain target of certain age group, you know, we might need to take a look at what is causing it. Is it usually the same injuries? And if there's something that we can do, you know, instigate some sort of prevention on that. Just trying to check your trends on it. Thank you.
Mr. Betancourt?
Thank you, Mr. Durman. Mr. Gaspard, this isn't, all these information that you said you couldn't get from others, is that public records or what? This information that you're showing us?
I guess it could be requested through a public records request. I didn't go to that extent. I just contacted them personally and asked them if they compiled this data first. Some other school districts do this strictly with their insurance company, I believe. They're not keeping it internal. and they're just reporting what has to be reported to their insurance company to handle as a claim. This is more activity and frequency, by location, by job class, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure if I can get apples to apples in that comparison, but I did ask each one of them. Larger districts, Caddo, Calcasieu, Jefferson.
Okay.
I was just wondering if they, you know, if there was some kind of refusal to give you the information, or maybe some of them didn't have some of this.
It may be that, yeah.
It may take a while to compile all of that, Ron, and I mean, you know, hey, they may not think Kurt's important enough to get that information to him. So, any other questions or comments from board members regarding the risk management report and the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Broom, please step up and ask Mr. Gaspar.
Thank you. My name is Robert Broom from Slidell, and I do have one question for Mr. Gaspard. When you were showing the personnel averages that you talked about, the question is going to be averages over what? Are you averaging over the number of incidents or the number of teachers that we had, paras? What was the average done over?
Are you talking about the workers' comp?
No, there were several slides in there where you were showing averages. And of course, I don't have a hard copy, but just in the early slides that you had like the number of incidents, the average number of incidents for paraprofessionals.
Well, the average, a lot of those was just for the years. There was a total of all of the years and then divided by the number of years we've done.
Correct.
Showed in the report.
It's just by, you know, total category combined for all years divided by the number of years.
Okay. Perhaps I can meet with you and go over those slides individually at a later time, just so that I understand. But thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Broom, I also do believe the PowerPoint is on board docs, so that if you want to go online and look at that, you could look at it, what we just saw, and refresh yourself. Okay? All right, Mr. Gaspar, again, thank you very much, and Mr. Hennigan would be very impressed and happy to have this. So, yeah, we'll have to get him a copy of his own. Thank you. All right, Mr. Javier.
Monthly transportation report is in your packet, and Mr. Alfonso and his staff is here if you have any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Alfonso with transportation? Seeing none, moving on.
That's it for me, Mr. Derman.
You were great, Mr. Javier.
Thank you.
As always. We're going to go to construction, Ms. Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Derman. Our first item is consideration of bids for the additions to Madisonville Elementary School, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project 1800. We received those bids on January the 15th. They're attached to the memo. We had 6 bids. And we're recommending acceptance of the low base bid plus alternate 1 and alternate 2 submitted by Vocal McWilliams Construction LLC in the amount of $13,350,000 for this project, additions at Madisonville Elementary School, project number 1800. I'll give you a quick overview of the project. It's 41 classrooms. It's a 2-story addition. It will replace modular classrooms at Madisonville Elementary School. Alternate 1 is a gymnasium with a stage which would be connected to that new classroom building. And alternate 2 is renovation and expansion of the existing library building.
Okay. Ms. Drucker, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Hines, do I have a second? Mr. Green, you got a second? Any questions or comments from board members regarding the bid for the Madisonville Elementary School? Seeing none from board members, any from the public? Seeing none, let's please vote. It doesn't like. All Okay, thank you. Looks like we had 14 yeas and no nays, no abstentions. All right, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to the next item, which is consideration for the bids for Mandeville High School.
Yes, sir. We received those bids on January the 31st, and we are recommending acceptance of the low base bid plus alternate 1 and alternate 2 submitted by Thompson Construction Company in the amount of $14,598,000 for the additions at Mandeville High School, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project Number 1805. And that scope of work, the base bid provides for 23 regular classrooms, 6 smaller classrooms, 4 science classrooms, 4 special ed classrooms, a testing center, and office space, and that will remove modulars, the older modulars from that school campus. Alternate 1 is an addition to the gymnasium locker rooms and mezzanine, and alternate 2 will provide for new HVAC units for the gymnasium.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Green, you got a motion? Second from Ms. Drucker. Any comments or questions from board members regarding Mr. Bettencourt?
Thank you, Mr. Durman. Ms. Tipton, we've done business with Todd. The name doesn't.
No, sir,
come
this
across.
would be our first project with them, but they have been in business for some time and have done projects similar to this. Some of the jobs that they told us that they had done are Patterson Middle School in St. Mary Parish, St. James High School in St. James Parish, and South Down Elementary School in Terrebonne Parish.
Okay, thank you. Also, would you or maybe Mr. Jabia, would y'all have any idea or rough of, is this going to increase the capacity of Mandeville High, like number of students?
Yeah, we're replacing classrooms. This will provide them with a few extra spaces.
Okay. Mostly we just,
But we're mostly replacing the classrooms that we're removing.
Okay,
the
thank
modular
you.
classrooms.
Any questions? Mr. Green?
The alternate projects, are those things that will happen or, okay.
That's our information, yes, sir.
Okay, any other
And
questions?
just for information purposes, what we've always tried to do is put the base bid on what the project was to make sure we were on the budget and list alternates separately in case there was an opportunity to then do the work and list them in small groups so we can do 1 and maybe not 2 sometimes. But with these numbers, and as you see, we had 6 people bidding, which is always a good sign. The more that are participating, you like your numbers even more. So we had the opportunity with the funds that are available and the need is there to recommend to you tonight both alternates.
Hey, I think what I wanted to ask was, as far as what we had budgeted and the bid, where the bid numbers actually came in, which by accepting both alternates, apparently we were within what we had projected.
And
So
these were monies that were proceeds, if you remember, from other projects, other bond issues when everything had been completed, yes. So we feel comfortable with these numbers and grouping all, looking at the bottom line of both of them being where we need to be.
Okay, so it did come within what
Yes.
we had.
Recommended
Okay.
and estimated.
Okay, great. Any other questions by board members? Mr. Breaux?
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, you said it would replace some of the older modulars. How many more will they need to be replaced, or will this? How old are these older modulars, and how many are left?
This will take out 28 modular classrooms that were put in place in the early 2000s, late 1990s. There are still modulars that are newer that have been put in place just in the last couple of years, 3 or 4 years there
Well,
at that school.
28 substantial. How many more do you think? Yes, I mean, I don't need to know exactly. but-
22 other modular
So
classrooms
still
that have gone
quite
in
a
place in
substantial
recent
number.
years.
And I think
Yes,
you'll
sir.
find in our upcoming millage renewal, a lot of focus was made on removing modules as well. So that's what, the focus of a lot of this May millage renewal will be on the focus of removing older modules.
And I know it's past my time to ask, but Madison, how many modulars were replaced there?
It's about 32, I
So
believe.
again, very substantial.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
And that, all of this is going to be permanent construction,
Yes,
so.
yes, sir.
Yes, bricks and mortar.
Okay, with no comments left from the board members, any from the public? I'm sorry, Ms. Lammy?
I know that we're just voting on the bid, but I just have a question. How did you decide on these projects? When, I know this was before we were on the board, so how does that work?
Normally, I think you know how we decide on the ones that are in the upcoming
Yes, the
millage.
most needed.
Right. There was some money left over from the 2008 and 2013
Yes, sir.
bond issues.
Got it.
So with that money was left over, we identified some of our high growth, high
Okay, makes sense.
density areas, and
Thank you.
as the board chose those.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'd ask that everybody vote. Fourteen yeas, no nays, no abstentions. So we're going to go to the consideration of bids for the addition to Covington High School STPSP project number P0217. Ms. Tipton.
Thank you. Actually, this is site improvements. It's a summer project for Covington High School. We received those bids this week on February 5th, and we're recommending acceptance of the low base bid submitted by CDX Construction LLC in the amount of $167,000 for site improvements at Covington High School. P0217 is the project number.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Heinz makes a motion. Mr. Loop seconds it. Any questions or comments from board members? Any from the public? Seeing none, everyone vote, please.
Mr. Hersey.
Mr. Hersey? We need you to
He was
vote.
explaining to me, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Again, 14, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to the construction report. Ms. Tipton.
Yes, sir. We have a very short report. It'll be getting longer with these new projects starting. At Slidell High School, the girls' side locker room, the flooring installation is scheduled, and this phase of this project work is nearing completion. Very happy that the slab for the new kitchen area is scheduled to be poured tomorrow morning. At Mandeville High, the limestone parking lot was opened for use following the winter break. The modular classroom buildings were delivered and set during the winter break also. The walkways, electrical, and plumbing work are all progressing well, and that's the temporary modular classroom wing that's being put in place to support the work that you just approved for the bids for Mandeville High. We're also working on summer projects. You saw the first bid come in here tonight. Those will be including roofing and other site improvement projects. They're all in process of advertisement, pre-bid meetings, and receipt of bids, and you'll see a number of those bids for consideration at next month's committee as a whole meeting, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Tipton, for everything that you're doing. Any questions for Ms. Tipton on any construction projects, board members?
Hope it's sunny.
Seeing none, thank you very much. I guess we're going to go now to business affairs. Ms. Prevost.
Thank you, Mr. Derman. We have Mr. Brian Uval and Mr. Mickey Simon of LaPorte CPAs and Business Advisors, and they're going to present the fiscal 2017-2018 comprehensive annual financial report or audit.
Thank you.
And before they start, let me just thank Mr. Huval and Mr. Simon for their work with us, as well as staying late tonight. I'm sorry that we're this late with this, but I appreciate you staying, appreciate the report.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Good evening. I just wanted to take a moment to express gratitude to the board for the opportunity to serve as auditors. We really do appreciate that. And it's always great to work with a group as diligent as what you have here in the Business Affairs Department. My name is Mickey Simon. As mentioned, I'm a senior manager with LaPorte, which means that I'm on site for much of the audit, responsible for a lot of the field work and supervising the team that's here, so on and so forth, so involved in the goings-on during the audit. So we're here to discuss the results of the audit of the comprehensive annual financial report. So with that, let's just dive in. I'm going to cover 3 reports, which contain 5 opinions. In case you didn't know, auditors are very opinionated. The first report is on the financial statements. And this opinion says, or we've given an unmodified opinion. And what that means in layman's terms is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide in an audit. And it says, if I may paraphrase, in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. And so this is, again, as what is commonly referred to as a clean opinion. This report also this year contains what's called an emphasis of matter paragraph. And this is a paragraph that's put into audit opinions sometimes to call the reader's attention to an item of significance. This year, governmental accounting rules did change in a significant way, and that's with what's called GASB Statement number 75. I'll read it to you because it's kind of long. Accounting and financial reporting for post-employment benefits other than pensions. That's a mouthful to say that the way the liability for retiree medical and life insurance benefits to be paid to current and future retirees, that liability, the reporting of it has changed. And so now the full amount of that estimated liability is required to be reported, whereas previously it was only partial. That change led to restating the beginning net position on a government-wide basis by about $211 million. So that's why the emphasis of matter paragraph is in that opinion or in that report. The other reports that are part of our audit refer to the single audit and the governmental auditing standards. These are 2 pieces that are required when we're auditing a local government that has federal dollars. So I'll cover the first one, which is the report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters when we do the audit in terms of government auditing standards. So there's 2 opinions in here that I'd like to, I guess, discuss. One is with regard to internal controls over financial reporting. And that opinion states that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we identified in those controls over financial reporting. And the second piece is that we didn't identify any noncompliance with laws and regulations. The next report really is over the federal dollars that flowed through the school board, and that is the uniform guidance report that you see there. This one focuses more on internal controls over compliance, so making sure that the school board is in compliance with all the federal regulations that go with getting that money. That report states that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies there as well in internal controls over compliance. Finally, we have an unmodified opinion on compliance for the major programs or the major programs, the federal dollars that flowed through the school board. There were no compliance findings there either. So again, what you would call 2 more clean reports. Finally, I'd just like to cover some communication that is required by the auditors to the governing body. And usually this takes place through a letter, but since we were here, we wanted to communicate it verbally as well. This relates, first of all, to qualitative aspects of accounting practices. It really just discusses that there were 3 new standards adopted, the most significant being the one that I've already spoken about, GASB Statement number 75, with relation to that. The other elements or items of this communication are difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We had no difficulties. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. We had none of those, which essentially means that we didn't identify any misstatements and propose adjustments to the accounting staff. So that is good as well. Disagreements with management, there were none. Management consultations with other independent accountants, that essentially means that, were they opinion shopping or didn't like something we said and went somewhere else? None to our knowledge. And then any other audit findings or issues, there were none of those as well. So as you can see, from that presentation, it was all good results, right? So as I stated at the beginning, it's really a pleasure working with a group that has everything together. It makes this job of reporting to you guys a lot easier. So unless there are any questions, that would conclude our presentation on just the results that we had in our audit.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from the board members? Mr. Breaux?
Yes, thank you. You mentioned that the GASB Statement 75 increased it by 211 million. This is the non-retirement account, medical and whatever. What was it before? And is that 211 million increase?
That is the amount of the increase, right?
So what is the total? Do you, I mean, you don't remember. Okay, never mind.
Terry probably has it, yes.
It's $402 million.
Thank you.
Terry, could you briefly explain what that is as far as the liability?
Is the post-employment, what we do is we do an actuarial calculation of our liability for current and retirees as far as the life and the health benefits we provide to them. So it's a calculation. We have a actuary calculates it, and we're required to record it. And the standards changed this year, so it raised the amount.
Right. So it's kind of like a hypothetical number that's out there and that we're responsible to keep. So, I mean, it's all part of what we're doing and paying for their premiums and everything through retirement and everything else. So it's like it's not really anything new. It's just they recalculated how they determined that number. At least that's the way I take it, so.
Well put.
That's correct.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Oh, Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. I have a question. How is our score positively or negatively impacted regarding the internal audit control? Currently, we don't have one still, correct?
Correct. There's
Okay, so
there's
is
no
our
positive or
score-
negative impact.
So there's no positive or negative impact?
Not on our audit results.
Okay, and then my other question is, with the public requirements for what we do post to the public, what were your findings in that regard? Because I know that was something that was expressed from the general public, concerned that those year-over-year actuals were not conveyed, and, let's see, a year-over-year comparison with the variances. So I'm just curious, with the LGBA guidelines, how did we score in that regard?
So you referencing the Budget Act?
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't identify any non-compliance.
Okay.
So I don't think that was really truly a material compliance issue of note.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Lamey?
That sort of goes with my question. I'm not sure if it's to you or if it's to y'all, but everything sounds really great, but it's not my area of expertise. And so am I held accountable for accepting this and saying that, okay, everything's clear, everything meets, everything's great? They said we win an award, but I still have no clue if you're telling me what, you understand what I'm saying? So does that fall back in where I need to educate myself further, or is that something that I'm not responsible for because you did the report? You're responsible.
This is a presentation that's been given to you by auditors. There's no vote. It's just
No, I understand that,
information purposes.
but if to ask questions.
Sure.
But I don't know what questions to ask, so I'm just saying, is it something that I am held liable to, where I should research it further?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Just a presentation.
That was my question. You should, I just want to make sure, because I know ultimately they're reporting to us, so we should have a little bit of sense of what's going on, right? So I need to educate myself better.
The report is available.
I
and
understand.
you should-
The question was just how much
You should absolutely take a
ti-
look at the report.
I did see
Okay,
it.
okay.
I just still don't understand it. Being honest, I want to make sure I educate myself.
Give us a
better.
call if you have any
Thank you.
questions.
Okay, Ms. Drucker?
I'm gonna wrap it up, but I just wanted you to share, how many hours are invested, how many days does this take to actually conduct this audit? So everyone will understand how in-depth this audit is, and the presentation that you're giving and the awards that we went, that, that you're presenting to us with the 30 years, of award excellence in accounting for our school system. I mean, this is just not like, this is a total in-depth audit.
Yes, ma'am. We usually have a team of 2 or 3, not including myself, and I'm out here as well. But we're out here for three weeks, almost 4 weeks sometimes. So it might depend from year to year, but it's 3 to 4 weeks. It's hundreds of hours.
And may I ask who selects the data? Do y'all request the data that you're going to identify as far as?
Yes, sir.
So it's not like we give you what you want to see. You
Correct. We get the
request what it
populations
is.
and make selections, random selections based on our audit methodology.
Right. Thank you.
So it's completely unbiased.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Durham, if I could, I want to thank Terry and her staff, and this, I'm certainly extremely proud of this. And it's a lot of hard work by a lot of people, and something that we take pride in, something we work on each and every day, and there's nothing more important to us than this, and I think the results speak for themselves. So I thank you for your work.
Absolutely. We echo that sentiment as well. Gentlemen, thank y'all so much for being here so long with us tonight.
I just
I'm
wanted to
sorry.
say again, because I was questioning, I hope you don't think I was questioning you. I'm questioning my responsibility to what you just said that, okay, and I do thank you very much because I know it's a lot. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from board members regarding the report? Ms. Prevost, are you finished with everything that you want to do, or you got something else?
I have 2 more items.
Okay.
You were provided with the November and December monthly financial statements, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Prevost regarding the financial reports? No? Seeing none, monthly purchasing.
And Ms. Stevens is here to answer any questions on that report, if you have any.
Seeing none, no ma'am.
Okay,
Ms.
that's it.
Prevost, excellent job. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. And everybody else in the department, great job. Okay, in closing, we got announcements by the board president, Ms. Heinz.
Thank you, Mr. Durman. The February 14th board meeting will be held at Brooks Educational Complex in Slidell, 7 p.m. See you next Thursday.
That's it? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.